All right, everyone, this is NorvellCentral coming back at you with another YouTube video, and this time I'm actually going to be projecting the depth chart. I actually did this back in March, about a month ago or so, and I did my projections there. A couple of things have changed since spring practice is kind of concluded, and Florida State's already done with their 15 spring practices, and there's a lot of good things coming from spring practice so far. So just want to go ahead and go through it position by position and just see where everything falls. First off, we got the quarterback position. This is kind of a no-brainer. This is Jordan Travis's offense, and this is Jordan Travis. Mike Norvell has said that Jordan Travis is going to be the starting quarterback, and there's really no discussion. I mean, really, when you think about it, Jordan Travis really come on later in the season. The last 3 games of the season, he had 245 average on passing yards against Boston College, Miami, and also Florida. So there are some great things going on there. The only thing that I'm really concerned about mostly with him is durability. That's what a lot of people are concerned with. And you want to see more out of him just in terms of staying healthy. And we've discussed that in previous videos with my Jordan Travis video that I talked about before. But the second quarterback is where you get some intrigue from because you have Tate Rodemaker and you also have A.J. Duffy. A.J. Duffy is a true freshman. Tate Rodemaker, he's going to be in his third season. He's a redshirt sophomore. There's a lot of good things that you can base it off of, but really when you look at the game environments he's been in, he really hasn't been himself. It's really some times where he looks kind of confused at times. There's a lot of things where he doesn't really know where to go with some of the reads, but he's very athletic as a quarterback, but he just has to really showcase that strong arm. And really everything really hasn't pieced together. So you're trying to figure out different pieces for him and how he's going to be able to react to certain situations. But I do think he is good enough to be your quarterback too. I know in certain situations, I know the spring game really didn't give him a great showcase, especially with those 2-point conversions. The first pass of the game was an interception. So there's a lot of things that Florida State has to work on, but I wouldn't really base anything off of what you observed during the spring game because even when you saw in the spring game, A.J. Duffy looked lost at times. So you really have to factor in that Tate Rodemaker is probably going to be your quarterback number 2 to give A.J. Duffy some kind of developmental time to be able to kind of groom himself as he grows as a quarterback. But just overall, I think Tate Rodemaker has securely got the second quarterback spot. We'll see if they go up there another transfer, but right now I think those are your 2 for right now. At the running back position, I think you got Trayshawn Ward. I think he's going to be your guy there. I know there was a little bit of concern because he only had 12 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown within his last 5 games of the season. So there are a lot of things that you have to kind of worry about. It seemed like a lot of the steam that had come off from that 6.3 yards per carry kind of slowed down a little bit. And now you're bringing in a guy like Trey Benson, who I think is going to be your backup / 1-2 punch right there at running back. He showed exceptional burst and speed in the spring game, and that's something that you can really be kind of holding your hat on, as you could say. And he really didn't even showcase any kind of brace or anything like that. So the injury is kind of far behind him now at this point. I discussed this in another video that I talked about Trey Benson. This injury is a mindset kind of thing, ligament damage to your knee, but it's more of, it's going to be about 1.5 years, 2 years before when he gets on the field that he had that injury. So all that injury talk and concern is probably going to be out the window by that time. So you're hoping that he gets the confidence that he needs to be able to do. He wasn't very productive at Oregon, only having about 8 carries for, I think it was 54 yards or something like that. It wasn't very impressive. So, Florida State really evaluated him early on. This coaching staff did. They wanted him at Memphis. It turned out that they went another route. And now it's kind of coming full circle. It's one of his first offers that he ever had from Mike Norvell. So very impressive to see Florida State kind of going there. The third back, I would say DJ Williams might have a couple of opportunities here and there at that running back position, but we'll definitely see how that plays out. I want to see how he kind of comes in weight-wise this summer, and if he focuses in, he may be able to get some goal line carries. At the tailback position, this is kind of a hybrid slot / running back, and that's Lawrence Telephilly. I think he's your guy right there. I think he's very versatile. He's got to go a little bit more weight on him, of course. There's got to be a little bit more built to his frame. So that's going to be the next concern that you have to really think about. And really, when you're looking at the second string tailback, you got a guy like Rodney Hill that I think is going to really impress you. And a guy that I would kind of focus on, I wouldn't really say he's going to be a major contributor this year. I think he might be more along the lines of special teams this year. But I think that could be C.J. Campbell. He could be your backup tailback, but I'm going to side with Rodney Hill. I don't think they're going to use a backup tailback very much. So I think Hill and Campbell may not be utilized as much. I think both of them may be utilized more on special teams. and then maybe Campbell converts to a scholarship later on. We'll definitely see how that pans out, but that's who I think is going to be at the tailback position, and that's a very important position for Mike Norvell's offense, because you even looked at Lawrence Telephilly, his performance against Clemson. I mean, him in the slot or him in the backfield catching passes out of there is very good. His carrying is not the greatest in the world, but he shows some explosiveness when he carries the football. So you want to see that being utilized all over the field. I think he is a capable running back that can be able to carry the load if he needs to be, and he could be a difference maker, but you just want to see what comes to that. So it's definitely a question mark at the tailback position to see what Lawrence Telephilly can do this season, but I have confidence that he can be a difference maker if he puts his mind to it. At the wide receiver spot, the first wide receiver spot I have is Ontario Wilson. And that may come as a surprise for some people because everybody loves Malik McLean, and I understand that completely. I think his 6'4" frame, 210 pounds, he has a solid speed. He has solid route running. Of course, that was kind of his weak point at sometimes last season. It seemed like a lot of times he wasn't really able to get a lot of separation. And maybe that's because they threw him into the fire too early as a freshman. He started in, I think, 6 games last season. So he only had 2 touchdowns, and he had about 200 yards last season. So you want to see more production there. Ontario Wilson was their leading receiver last year with 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. So maybe he can get back that North Carolina form that he had where he had an amazing game. But I think Ontario Wilson is probably the most consistent, or one of the most consistent receivers that you've seen this spring. And that's a testament to how they brought in those 4 transfer wide receivers and how they're going to be able to step up. The other outside receiver I have is Micah Pittman. You saw this in the spring game, and he's really shown that showcase of ability of being able to size, strength, everything like that. I mean, he's a little dude, but it's more along the lines of he's 6 foot, 200 pounds. He can do everything, slot, even put him at halfback if you wanted to at times. I mean, he is a jack of all trades, as they say. So I really want to see him in a starting outside role to see where he goes. Now, Malik McLean's going to get more time. I mean, that he's going to have some opportunities to be able to shine. That's not the problem that I'm really saying. He's not going to be a backup to anybody, really. It's going to be a collective effort between some of these guys. The next one, backing up Pittman, I think is going to be Johnny Wilson. This is an interesting thing because you really look at it, and Johnny Wilson has struggled with drops. He struggled with hamstring injuries at Arizona State, and there's a lot of different opportunities that he can be able to capitalize with his 6'7" frame, but you really just want to see more opportunities. And the more opportunities he gets, the more consistent he gets, the more opportunities he will be able to get in this offense. And maybe you see him as a Greg Carr guy. Maybe you don't. It just kind of very depends. I mean, Florida State knew what they were getting in him. They have 3 years remaining on him to kind of develop his skill set and see where it goes. But right now, I think he's going to be backing up Pittman for right now. But both of them are going to play, like I said. Winston Wright I have at the slot receiver spot, and this is if he's healthy. I have no earthly idea if he's going to be healthy. By game 1, he did say he was going to be back this season. I had spoken to him, and he's doing his rehab process and everything, so we're going to see where that leads up to. But if he doesn't play, this is a guy that I really think is going to be special for Florida State in that slot role, and that's Jakai Douglas. He has been a extremely pleasant surprise there for Florida State at the slot receiver spot, and you really want to see more playmakers at that side of the ball. And I even did a Q&A with him on my Instagram page, and we even talked about that moment against Miami when he set up that 50-yard touch, reception to kind of set up that touchdown drive and have the eventual 4th and 14. He was able to keep that drive alive and be able to get that wheel route going around. And it's just something that he specializes in. He separates pretty well. His route running is also, a work in progress. A lot of these receivers are. I think Winston Wright is your most complete receiver. I think he's your wide receiver 1. And I also think he's a viable special teams threat along with Micah Pittman. But you just want to see Winston Wright be healthy. I know it's unfortunate that he had a car accident in Savannah, Georgia. But, you just have to move on and see what you got to have in your weapons. But those are the 6 I think that are going to be able to contribute right away. And those are guys that I really think are going to be very vital for Florida State going this season if they want to have any kind of chance on offense. Then you look at the tight end position. Cam Mcdonald, I think, is your number 1 tight end. I think he's been a viable weapon for Florida State, but has his ceiling been reached? And I don't know exactly. You look at a guy like Trey McKitty that used to be at Florida State, went to Georgia, and got drafted in the 5th round off of basically potential. This is his moment to shine at this point. I mean, he was part of the 2018 class with Willie Taggart, and you're wanting to see more out of production out of him. I mean, there's not many of those guys left in this program. And Cam Mcdonald has kind of made his staple and what he is, but can he elevate to the next level? And I don't know if he can, but some of these tight ends that we now have 6 scholarship tight ends on the roster after Kobe Gross actually entered the transfer portal. And this is the biggest question mark, is who is going to be behind Mcdonald? Will it be a Wyatt Rector? Will it be a Jackson West? Will it be a Marquise Douglas? Will it be a Preston Daniel? Will it be a Jarrell Powers, Brian Courtney? You're trying to find the next option behind Cam Mcdonald. And I think that option has to either be West or Douglas in that situation, because it's more of an experienced option. They've been around for a little bit longer. Wyatt Rector is also another amazing option that you can have as a blocking specialist, but you have to figure out what you want. And I think they want Jackson West to be successful, and I'm going to be picking him in this situation, but he had a crucial drop in that spring game, and you cannot have crucial drops, especially when you're having that much competition that you're going after in those certain regards. And really, maybe a Jarrell Powers can be able to get a flex wide receiver role and kind of mold into that tight end type. Maybe he can be a guy that comes in, but he is a summer enrollee. You got a guy like Brian Courtney that played the quarterback position, that played defensive end, but he's never really played tight end. They've really projected him as playing that tight end spot, but he's never really had experience at the position. So really, you're just throwing darts at the position, and you're trying to figure out what you got. So Jackson West is my pick there. It could also be Marquise and Douglas. I'm just kind of debating one of the other, but Cam McDonald is definitely going to be your tight end number 1. The next spot is the left tackle position. This is Robert Scott. I think this goes without question. I mean, Robert Scott was one of your most consistent offensive linemen last year. He's done a really nice job in developing at a nice pace. You saw at some of those mock drafts, they had him at round 1, pick 23 to the Bengals. So that was very impressive to see with some of that. And that just goes to show you how Alex Atkins is doing miracle workers with former 3 stars out of Conway, Arkansas. So doing a very good job, and Robert Scott's doing a very good job as well with some of his footwork, technique, handwork, everything like that. So very impressive to see from him. I have Lloyd Willis backing him up. Now, this is a 6'7", 300-pound offensive tackle that Florida State likes, and they kind of viewed him as a project early on in the recruiting process, and he's still kind of being around. He was part of Mike Norvell's first class that he had in 2020, so you're wanting to see more production out of him. I don't know if Florida State really likes that out of him just yet. I don't know if he's quite ready, but I do have him pegged as that left tackle position because it's more of a natural position for him. Then you go to the left guard spot. I think it's going to be Dylan Gibbons. I think that's, without saying, I think that's one of the most consistent receivers next to Robert Scott. I think that's really good for Florida State to have him. Now, behind him, I have a dash, an either or. I have Thomas Schrader and Zane Herring. This is a situation because Thomas Schrader is coming off that injury last season. He didn't really play. Zane Herring played, but he was battling inconsistencies, and you're wanting to see more out of them. But, let's face it, 2 of those guys have question marks. And you're hoping that Dylan Gibbons doesn't get hurt, but in a process of that happening, you got to have someone step up, and you're hoping that one of those 2 guys can step up in that situation. The next one is kind of debated. I went back and forth on it, but I think Caden Lyles is going to get the starting spinner spot. He comes from Wisconsin. He's a redshirt senior. You were hoping that Caden Lyles can be able to start right away, be able to develop, and get everything settled for Maurice Smith as he goes into next season, kind of gets that weight up. He was at 271. I believe he's at like 275 right now. So he's gaining the weight slowly but surely. I'm not really sure of him because Caden Lyles, he doesn't have great foot speed. He doesn't really do a whole lot of things. When you're able to do those outside zone runs, he's not really able to do much. You can't really put him at guard, and you definitely can't put him at tackle. So I'm just kind of figuring out what he needs to be in this offense. And if I had to put a percentage on him starting at center, I would definitely say it's about 70%. I think that's about safe as what it is. Maurice Smith can easily come up and be able to do that. They have familiarity with the offense. He talked about that before. He's not scared of competition. And Alex Atkins asked him before if it was okay to bring Caden Lyles in, and he was like, yeah, bring him on. This is a situation where Maurice Smith is very confident in his abilities, and we'll definitely see how that plays out. But I have Lyles right now as my starting center. Then right guard kind of gets a little interesting because I like Darius Washington there at right guard. And this is because I think it's more of his natural position. I think that Florida State really values him at center at both guard positions, right tackle, left tackle, doesn't matter. He plays all over the offensive line. And that's something that Florida State really misses with some of these offensive linemen because they don't have that. Behind him, I have Bryson Estes. I think he is that guy that can really be able to kind of bring that sense of energy. And I think that could be big for Florida State going forward there. Then you got right tackle. You got Bless Harris. I think that's going to be your most remote option there. The Lamar Jr. offensive tackle coming in for Florida State for his first season. And this is more of a pinch because, let's face it, Florida State missed out on Amarius Mims, the sophomore offensive tackle from Georgia. He decided to withdraw his name from the transfer portal, and now he's back at Georgia. So your numbers at the tackle position are very slim. I mean, you're basically hoping that a guy like Rodor, who I think is probably going to be the backup right tackle for right now. I don't think he's quite ready, just like I don't think Lloyd Willis is quite ready. You're bringing in guys like Julian Armella. You're bringing in Jalen Early, who I think is going to be more of a guard. Bringing in Quayshawn Sapp, who I think is going to be more of a guard or center type. Can play a little bit of right tackle if needed, but we'll definitely see with that. You bring in a guy like Antavius Woody if he's able to enroll and everything like that. He can play right tackle, guard, things like that. But they're bringing him in as an interior, I believe. So, you got Daltrey Richardson. He played a little bit of guard, and he also played primarily left tackle. You hope to find something there. Kanai Charlton at guard. You're hoping one of those guys can step up, but they're true freshmen. So I don't know how much to really base that off of, especially coming off of April 19th of guessing this projected depth chart. You want to see more out of that position group and total. And really, I can see 6 guys out of that group that will be able to be serviceable. You got Robert Scott, Dylan Gibbons, Caden Lyles, Darius Washington, Bless Harris, and Maurice Smith. I think those are your 6 that you feel very, very confident in. And the problem is now, with Amarius Mims not being able to go to Florida State and transfer out of Georgia to go there, you don't have 7 quality offensive linemen anymore. You have about 6. You may have 7 with Thomas Schrader if you're lucky. Bryson Estes, maybe. That could be your 8, maybe. And I'm stretching it because I don't know if Lloyd Willis is ready to develop quite ready. And I kind of question that. And I think Florida State's going to have to go out and get an offensive tackle and another interior offensive guard, and probably going to have to cross-train them to where they can play both positions, because this is a situation where Florida State's kind of put themselves in and they really don't know what to do. So that's kind of a question and concern that I have, but hopefully we can kind of figure that out. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball. You have the defensive end position where I think Jared Verse is going to be that guy that steps up forward there. I think that could be a big guy there. Quayshawn Fuller, I think, is also going to be the second option. I think, with Jared Verse coming from Albany, he's going to have to take some steps to where he's able to be a starter. He had 9.5 sacks last season at Albany. This is a great get for Florida State in the transfer portal. He has 3 years left remaining. And, you got a guy like Quayshawn Sapp that come in as a reserve last season. I even think a guy like Patrick Payton can be able to push that position as well. So we'll definitely see how it plays out. And then you have the defensive tackle position. This goes without saying. Fabian Lovett is going to be your starting defensive tackle. Now, behind them, I actually have Jarrett Jackson and also Joshua Farmer. I think both of those guys are going to play a lot. I think they're going to get a lot of burn. I wasn't really sure about the Jarrett Jackson take when we took him, but he has really impressed and really tried to step up his game. And I think that he could be a good piece. I mean, Joshua Farmer is still kind of growing into his position, and I believe he's at 310 now. So there is a lot of growth there, but you want to see more. And so the next part that I want to talk about is the nose tackle position. This is Robert Scott. This is his position. Robert Scott has been running every single practice with Mike Norvell. They've been racing up the field to see who finishes first, and Robert Cooper has gotten the best of Mike Norvell a couple of times. So very impressive to see him coming back, and that was a huge get for Florida State to get Lovett and Cooper to come back this season on the defensive side of the ball. And Malcolm Bray, I think, is going to back him up at the nose tackle position, but we'll definitely see. This is a kind of questionable decision, I guess you could say. McClendon actually had some words for me on my Instagram post whenever I posted this earlier, but the Fox position, I have Dennis Briggs starting, and I have Derek McClendon actually backing him up. I could actually see this being flip-flopped. I'm a little bit concerned with Dennis Briggs with his injury, but I want to see how he kind of acclimates himself to the game once he comes back. The biggest thing is going to be after that chop block injury, and he was out for the rest of the season. you want to see how he responds to it. I didn't want to quite write him off just yet and have McClendon being the starter at that position, even though he has been performing very, very well. I want to see how Briggs does in the summer, and then I can kind of base it off of that. As we know, Florida State runs mostly a 4-2-5, so I'm going to be talking about the Mike linebacker position and the Will linebacker position. At the Mike, I actually have Tatum Bethune starting. That goes without question. He had 108 total tackles last season for UCF, and I think he is your guy at the Mike linebacker position. Backing him up, I think it's going to be DJ Lundy. I think with his weight loss, I think he went from 255 to 230. That is very impressive, especially when you're trying to figure out what he is. He was a prototypical linebacker for the 1990s at that point. He was a decent run stopper, but he was slow, and he wasn't able to really cover as much in space, and it was kind of a liability at times for Florida State. So I think he could be a situation where he could be backing up Tatum Bethune, and they could run a 3-linebacker set where he could be a starter if we need be, but we'll definitely see there. At the Will position, I have Caden Lyles starting. I think he's going to be your starter there. He had a great, phenomenal season last season with 69 total tackles. He really showed up in key pivotal moments. And behind him, I have Amari Gaynor. And the problem with Amari Gaynor is they showcased him at so many positions last year. They wanted him to be successful, but he really wasn't able to really process a lot of those positions. And you saw him getting lost a couple of times. But there is another guy that I think could be an effective piece, and I think that's going to be Steven Dix Jr. I think that could be a piece where you can build off of it. I know he didn't play last season as much, and he played a lot in 2020 and really struggled in coverage just like DJ Lundy did. But, DJ Lundy kind of fixed his game a little bit more, and Steven Dix is kind of still going at the process right now. He looks ripped, and you want to see more production out of him. Hopefully he is able to do that because he is a former 4-star. He is very talented, but you just want to see more out of him. Another sleeper that I have is maybe a guy like Brendan Gantz. That could be an intriguing situation. I don't know if he has any in the tank to be able to be successful at the linebacker position, especially since he really hasn't played the position ever. He's always been a defensive back, and he got converted from safety to linebacker, so maybe that is something that you can go towards. Omar Graham is another intriguing option that you may want to kind of explore in and see what you got. But overall, I think the linebacker room is a whole lot better than what it was, and I think this is probably your best unit since 2014. So very impressed linebacker unit so far. But then you go to the cornerbacks and safeties. So you got the boundary corner side. I think it's going to be a Marion Cooper. I think that goes without saying. I think he's going to be your guy there. And he played really well the end of last season. And then he's also playing very, very well at the start of spring. I think he really brings that energy and that tenacity that you really need. Backing him up, I think it's going to be Sam McCall. I could also see a little bit of Jarian Jones as well. But overall, I think Sam McCall is going to be your backup boundary corner. I could see him being able to be pushed there. But I think Marion Cooper kind of keeps that competition at bay because I think he is going to be your number one corner. And I think he's probably going to be an all ACC mention, whether it be third team, or whatever the case is. I think he's going to be a very viable piece that Florida State fans are going to really, really enjoy this season. Now, here's a little bit of a question mark that some Florida State fans were looking at when they were reading my post about this. And I have Bernardo Greene being the field corner starter. So I have him over Azaria Thomas. And Azaria Thomas is kind of that spring practice darling that everybody is talking about because he's getting picks left and right. But you also have to realize that Greene is a redshirt junior. He has got experience. And the thing with Mike Norvell in his third year, he's going to have a little bit more experience. He's going to have those players step up in certain situations. And Greene has been nothing but professional throughout this process. He's been able to be moved from safety back to corner. And he started his career at corner, moved to safety, and then come back to corner. I think that could be also said about Travis Shea. I think he needs to do the same thing. But I will say that Greene is probably the most experienced option. You're trusting more of a veteran, a 4-year veteran at that point, and I think that could be the better option over Azaria Thomas. But I still think Azaria Thomas is going to play a lot. But we'll definitely see with that. Then you got the nickel cornerback position is going to be Kevin Knowles. I think he's going to be your starter there, but Grady Vance is not too far behind at the second spot. I think both of those guys are going to play as well. I think Grady Vance can even play some outside corner as well. I think they're trying him at certain positions. He is one of those guys that is very physical at the point of attack, but he's a little bit on the smaller side. He's about 5'10", 5'11". Same thing with Kevin Knowles. They're two smaller guys, but they really do pack a punch when they're able to cover in space, and they will talk your head off. I mean, they are two guys that are very gritty, and they really like to compete at a high level. Then you got the Buck safety position. I think it's going to be Akeem Dent. I think that's going to be your guy there. And I also think that behind him, I think it's going to be Shaheem Brown. I think that's going to be a situation where Florida State's really going to have two quality safeties there at the Buck position. And I think that could be a piece that Florida State can really, really hang their hat on as we go through the season with that. And then you got the free safety position. It goes without saying, Jamie Robinson is going to be the leader of this defense, and he is going to continue to be the leader of this defense. He is one of those guys that I think is going to be really successful in certain situations, and I think he could have a situation where he's going to be all first-team ACC again at the safety position. So this is going to be something that Florida State is going to hang their hat on, and this is a situation where guys like Fabian Lovett, Robert Cooper, and also Jamie Robinson are going to be your leaders on defense. And then behind him, I think you're going to have a guy like Sidney Williams, maybe a Jarquez McClellan as well. I think that could be another option that they could have at the free safety position. But just overall, I think that these two, offense and defense, they're bringing in 9 starters on both sides of the ball. And that's very big for a Florida State team that's really struggled with consistency. They brought most of their staff back other than Kenny Dillingham, and they elevated Alex Atkins, the offense coordinator. They elevated Randy Shannon, that was in a kind of an assistant role to linebackers coach after Chris Marv left. And, Tony Tokarts has actually moved up to the quarterbacks coach. So there's a lot of familiarity, and I like the way that Mike Norvell did this. I know some people are talking about it's maybe a lazy hire with certain instances, but when you've had so much turmoil in the last couple of years with coaching staffs and trying to bring everything in, if you feel comfortable with your coaches that you have on staff, make sure to be able to extend those guys and feel comfortable and build those relationships with certain players that you have. I mean, Marcus Woodson is a great recruiter, great evaluator, and you're seeing all these great cornerbacks coming in and playing for him. And you got a guy like Odell Haggins that has been around for so long. I mean, just getting certain situations there. Alex Atkins is another great mind there. Tony Tokart's a great quarterback mind that you have, and he's a former quarterback that helps your quarterbacks kind of grow and develop. David Johnson is a good evaluator at running back, and he used to be a high school coach. Chris Thompson has the same experience as a head coach as well. So there's a lot of good pivotal pieces that you can have for Florida State. I think that's a big thing for Florida State going forward, is just having that consistency. They have to win on the field, of course. I think this is a 6 or 7 win team right now without the transfers that they're probably going to bring in, because they have 83 scholarship players. But we'll definitely see how Florida State plays out. But anyways, I just hope everyone has a great rest of the day today. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown of my projected depth chart. Leave a comment on what you think. If you have any changes that you want to make, whatever the case is, let me know in the comments. And right before I leave too, I think about 82% of you guys that watch the videos are unsubscribed. So feel free to hit that bell at the bottom, and also hit the subscribe button, because like I said, it really helps me and helps me grow my brand as well. I think I'm at 1,070 subscribers. So just kind of keep up that. And I really do thank all the love and the support that I have been through with all my YouTube videos and everything. And as always, I just hope everyone has a great rest of the night, and go Noles.